Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right? The affirmations, the vision boards, the hard work, and yet your desires still feel a million miles away? What if the very thing you think is helping is actually blocking you? There's a moment in everyone's manifestation journey. It whispers, if I just work harder, visualize more, say my affirmations longer, and control every tiny detail, then the universe will finally give me what I want. On the surface, this makes perfect sense. Our whole world is built on this idea. Effort equals reward. But in the world of quantum physics, that rule just doesn't apply. The universe doesn't respond to struggle. It responds to harmony. And here's the strange twist. The more your ego pushes and strains, the more it gives off a signal of, I don't have enough. The more it complicates things, the more it gets in its own way. The very thing you think is helping you manifest is actually the one thing blocking you. Let's look at this with a simple story. Imagine someone plants a seed. The ego can't stand the stillness of waiting. It needs proof, results, and control. So every day, it digs up the soil to check if the seed is growing. It pours too much water, rearranges the dirt, and even tries to pull on the tiny sprout before it's ready. What happens? The seed never gets a chance to grow. This is exactly what so many people do with their desires. They plant an intention, but never let the universe do its part. They overcomplicate things with doubts, rigid plans, strict deadlines, and constant comparison. Then they wonder why nothing ever seems to grow. In quantum physics, simplicity is the key to creating harmony. When everything is in harmony, particles line up, waves become stable, and the entire system flows. When your energy is in harmony, the universe mirrors it back to you instantly. But the ego is terrified of simplicity. It doesn't trust anything that feels easy. It whispers, it can't be this simple. It has to be more complex. I need to do more, force more, prove more. That's the trap. The ego loves complicated problems. It feels safe when it has puzzles to solve, strategies to analyze, and goals to chase. But the universe doesn't care about your strategies. It only cares about your energy. And that energy gets jumbled and blocked when the ego adds unnecessary static. Science shows us why. The ego lives in the part of your brain that's always analyzing, judging, and predicting. When it's in overdrive, it sends your nervous system into fight or flight mode. Your heart rate speeds up, stress hormones flood your body, and suddenly your energy is out of whack. You're broadcasting fear, lack, and urgency. No matter what words you say or what visions you try to imagine, the signal the universe receives is, I don't trust, I don't have, I'm not good enough. And the universe, like a perfect mirror, sends that exact same state back to you. The more you try, the more you chase, the more you push, the farther away your desire feels. Spiritual teachers have warned us about this for thousands of years. Mystics spoke of the small self, the false identity obsessed with control. Buddhists call it Maya, the illusion that keeps you stuck. Jesus referred to it as dying to yourself, to be reborn in spirit. Modern teachers simply call it the ego. All of them point to the same truth. The ego cannot create miracles because it doesn't believe in things being easy. It only knows struggle. It only knows separation. But the quantum field is not about separation. It is about wholeness, flow, and connection. When you let go of the ego, you step into that wholeness. Here's the beautiful paradox. The ego thinks that letting go means losing control. But in the quantum field, letting go is what gives you true control, the kind that comes from being in harmony, not from force. Think of a surfer on a wave. The ego wants to control the ocean. It wants to change the tide, redirect the current, and demand that the wave move differently. But the real master doesn't fight the wave. They get in sync with it. They ride it. The wave carries them not because they forced it, but because they surrendered to its natural flow. That's quantum manifestation. The universe is the wave. Your ego can't push it, but your soul can ride it. So, if you ever wondered why manifesting feels so hard, why you keep trying new practices without results, or why you're just plain exhausted from trying, it's because the ego is overcomplicating something that was always meant to be simple. The universe isn't blocking you. Your ego is. It creates endless conditions, endless steps, and endless resistance. The truth is right in front of you. Harmony is effortless. Being in sync is simple. Resonance is natural. And here's an idea I want you to hold on to. What if the most powerful thing you could do for your manifestation is not to add more steps, but to get rid of them? What if the block was never outside of you, but within the ego that refuses to believe things can be easy? Stay with me, because we're about to uncover why the ego resists simplicity so strongly, and why letting it go is the only way to step into a life where manifesting is truly effortless. Ready to let go of the struggle? If so, type "I release control" in the comments and make a promise to yourself. At its core, the ego is terrified of simplicity. It thrives on problems to solve, puzzles to analyze, and challenges to overcome. If things are easy, the ego feels useless, invisible, and unimportant. That's why, when it comes to manifesting, the ego secretly complicates what was always designed to be effortless. It whispers, if it's this simple, it can't be real. If I'm not struggling, I must not be doing enough. And so people pile on more rituals, more steps, more affirmations, and more control, all to satisfy the ego's need for complexity. But here's the truth. The universe doesn't respond to effort. It responds to frequency. And frequency is clearest when it's in harmony, not when it's complex. Albert Einstein once said everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. He understood that nature itself is efficient. The laws of physics don't get complicated, they express profound truths in simple equations. E equals mc squared isn't a long formula, its elegance is distilled. In the same way, the quantum field doesn't need elaborate rituals to respond to you. It responds to your state of being, your energy, your harmony, and your alignment. But the ego, however, wants to add layers of unnecessary noise. It wants guarantees, control, timelines, and safety nets. And all of that noise scrambles your signal. Let's look at this through quantum mechanics. In experiments like the double-slit test, particles act as waves of possibility until they're observed. Observation makes the wave collapse into matter. But what's so amazing is this: the collapse doesn't require effort. It doesn't require force. It happens instantly, naturally, as soon as attention lines up with a possibility. This is simplicity at the quantum level. And yet, the ego refuses to believe it could be that easy. It wants to inject struggle where none is needed. It turns a simple collapse of possibility into a complicated process of endless steps. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this beautifully in his work. He says that most people are hooked on the familiar feelings of stress, fear, and control. Their bodies are trained to feel unsafe unless they are doing something. But when you are constantly doing, you are sending out a vibration of lack, a message that says, I don't have it yet, so I must work harder to get it. That very message keeps what you want at a distance. Dispenza's research shows that when people get into a state of heart-brain harmony, when they let go of control and simply become the state of their desired future, the universe responds right away. Healings happen. Lucky coincidences flood in, timelines shift, not because they did more, but because they allowed more. The ego, however, sees allowing as weakness. It says, if I stop trying, nothing will happen. But physics tells us the opposite. Energy flows along the path of least resistance. Manifestation happens through harmony, not effort. When you stop overcomplicating things, your energy becomes clear, organized, and magnetic. The universe, like a perfect mirror, reflects that clarity back to you. But when you overcomplicate, you create static, distortion, and noise. The mirror reflects that too: confusion, delays, and scarcity. The ego then points to the chaos and says, "See, you need me. You need to put in more effort." And the cycle just keeps going. Spiritual teachers have always taught that truth is simple. Jesus said, "Unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." Children don't complicate. They imagine, they feel, they trust. Their energy is clear, their hearts in harmony. That's why their desires come to them so quickly. They live in simplicity. The ego, on the other hand, is like a lawyer who never stops arguing. It fills your mind with conditions. You can't be happy until this happens. You can't relax until you have proof. You can't trust until you control everything. But the universe doesn't respond to arguments. It responds to vibration. And vibration is clearest when it's simple. So, here's the paradox. The ego believes complexity equals control. But in truth, complexity equals resistance. Simplicity equals harmony. Complexity keeps you stuck in survival. Simplicity sets you free to create. This is why so many people struggle with manifesting. They've handed the process over to the ego, letting it pile on more and more effort until the signal is so noisy the universe can't respond. But the ones who learn to simplify, to feel instead of force, to trust instead of chase, to align instead of overthink, those are the ones who experience effortless leaps forward. So ask yourself honestly, is your ego overcomplicating your manifestation? Are you adding layers of ritual, doubt, and control to something that was always meant to be natural? If so, you're not failing. You're just in the ego's trap. And the way out isn't more effort, it's less. It's remembering the elegance of simplicity. Because the moment you release the ego's need for complexity, you begin to see that the universe has always been ready. The only thing missing was your trust. Stay with me, because next we'll uncover the science of overthinking, how the ego literally rewires your nervous system for survival, and why this state blocks the very things you're trying to create. The ego's grip ends now. Type "I release control" below to signal your shift from force to flow. Let's be honest. How many nights have you lain awake replaying the same thought over and over? How many times have you set an intention only to immediately start questioning? When will it happen? How will it happen? What if it doesn't happen? That endless loop is the ego at work. It pretends to be responsible or to be thinking ahead, but in truth, it's just overthinking. And overthinking is one of the biggest blocks to quantum manifestation. Here's why. Your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly scanning your surroundings, comparing the present moment with memories of the past, and trying to guess the future. When you've spent years living with stress or disappointment, your brain predicts more of the same. That means even when you set a new intention, your subconscious filters it through old patterns. You say, "I want abundance," but your brain says, "Last time you tried that, it failed. You better prepare for lack." That prediction sends your nervous system into survival mode. And in survival mode, your body can't tell the difference between a real danger and an imagined one. It reacts with the same stress signals: adrenaline, cortisol, shallow breathing, and a racing heart. Suddenly, instead of sending out a signal of abundance, you're sending out fear. The HeartMath Institute has shown that your body's physical state has a huge impact on your intuition and your ability to manifest. When your heart rhythm is chaotic, as it is under stress, your perception narrows. You literally become less able to notice opportunities, lucky coincidences, and solutions. In contrast, when your heart rhythm is in harmony, your brain and body work together, expanding your awareness and opening the door to the quantum field. Overthinking destroys this harmony. It traps you in a loop of survival, where all you can manifest is more reasons to worry. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains it clearly. Your personality creates your personal reality. If your personality is addicted to stress, to analyzing, and to control, then your personal reality will mirror that addiction. You'll live in the same old cycles because your energy hasn't changed. Overthinking is the ego's way of keeping you in those cycles. It convinces you that worry equals safety, that analyzing equals progress, but all it really does is reinforce the vibration of separation and lack. Quantum mechanics gives us a mirror of this truth. In a state of superposition, a particle can exist in many possible states, but when we measure it, when we collapse the wave, it snaps into one. Overthinking is like measuring reality over and over again with the same old lens. Instead of letting the field collapse into a new possibility, the ego keeps collapsing it back into the familiar. It's like standing at the doorway of a new timeline, but choosing again and again to walk back into the old one, simply because the ego is too afraid to step into the unknown. Spirituality has always warned us of this trap. In Buddhism, overthinking is called monkey mind, the restless chatter that never stops. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote, "Stop thinking and end your problems." He wasn't dismissing the mind. He was pointing to the truth that endless analysis creates suffering. Mystics knew what science now confirms. The mind's obsession with control is the very thing that blocks the flow of life. Here's the irony. Overthinking feels productive. The ego whispers, "If I just think harder, I'll find the solution." But in the quantum field, solutions don't come from harder thinking. They come from a higher vibration. They come from harmony. They come when the mind is quiet enough to hear the whisper of intuition. Think of those moments when your best ideas showed up, in the shower, on a walk, or right before sleep. That wasn't overthinking. That was space. That was openness. That was the ego finally quiet enough for the universe to speak. So what can you do? The first step is simply to notice. Notice when you're caught in the loop. Notice when your nervous system is amped up, when your chest is tight, and when your thoughts are spinning. In that moment, pause. Breathe deeply. Put your attention on your heart. This simple act begins to reset your nervous system from survival to harmony. As your body calms down, your signal becomes clear. The static fades, the broadcast sharpens. You begin to tune back into the frequency of your desired reality. Overthinking is not your fault, it's your conditioning. But the moment you see it, you have a choice. You can keep collapsing the same old timeline, or you can step into the unknown, trusting that the universe responds not to your doubts, but to your harmony. The ego will always tempt you to complicate, analyze, and control. But you are not the ego. You are the observer, the consciousness, the signal itself. And when you stop letting the ego overthink, you finally give the universe permission to deliver what was waiting all along. Stay with me, because next we'll break down the exact signs that your ego is getting in the way of your manifestation and how to shift them right away. We're all on this journey together. If you're ready to embrace effortless manifestation, join me by typing "I release control" in the comments. By now, you're probably starting to realize that the ego doesn't always show up as arrogance or pride. In manifesting, it disguises itself as logic, responsibility, planning, or even spiritual discipline. It wears masks so convincing that most people don't realize they are manifesting from ego until they've worn themselves out with rituals that never work. But the universe is precise. It doesn't respond to masks. It responds to vibration. And when that vibration is coming from the ego, the outcome will always feel complicated, delayed, or incomplete. So, how do you know when your ego is blocking your manifestation? Let's break it down into 3 clear signs. 1, you repeat desires without feeling them. You say the words, write the affirmations, and create vision boards, but deep down, you don't feel it as real. The ego loves to keep you in the mental loop of wanting without ever crossing over into the vibrational state of being. It convinces you that repeating something over and over equals progress. But in truth, repetition without feeling is just static. It's the signal of lack disguised as effort. 2, you demand proof before trust. The ego says, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the quantum field works the opposite way. You'll see it when you believe it. Waiting for proof before you feel aligned sends out the vibration of doubt. It's like telling the universe, "I don't trust you yet." And the universe mirrors that uncertainty back. This is why things stall, not because the field is holding back, but because the ego refuses to trust first. 3. You obsess over the how. The ego is hooked on control. It wants to know every step, every detail, and every timeline. It whispers, "If I don't figure this out, it won't happen." But manifestation doesn't work by logic. It works by harmony. When you fixate on the how, you collapse all the possibilities into a narrow, limited path. You cut yourself off from the endless ways the universe could deliver. The ego thinks it's protecting you, but it's really just blocking the miracle. Now here's the liberating truth. Once you see these patterns, you can break them. Awareness is the first crack in the ego's armor. The moment you recognize, this is just my ego overcomplicating things again, you create space. You stop identifying with the voice of control and start aligning with the quiet pulse of intuition. That shift alone begins to clear your signal. But let's make this practical right now. Pause and reflect. Where in your life has the ego been complicating what was meant to be simple? Where have you been repeating instead of feeling, doubting instead of trusting, and controlling instead of allowing? You don't need to judge yourself. You don't need to fight the ego. You simply need to acknowledge it and release its hold. Because every time you release the ego's control, you return to harmony. And harmony is the only language the quantum field understands. To make this shift stick, I want to invite you to make a declaration. Not to me, not even to the world, but to the field itself. I release control. This isn't just a phrase, it's a quantum command. When you declare it with intention, you signal to your nervous system, your subconscious, and the universe that you are ready to step out of ego and into alignment. You're no longer begging the universe, you are aligning with it. And notice what happens as you hold that declaration. The mind quiets, the body softens, the frequency shifts. Because the universe doesn't need your overthinking, it needs your harmony. The ego complicates, but the soul simplifies. The ego doubts, but the universe mirrors. And the moment you say, "I release control," you step into the simplicity that the quantum always rewards. Stay with me, because next we'll go deeper into the heart of this shift. What it really means to move beyond the ego into effortless manifestation, and how that state changes not just your desires, but your entire life. Let's anchor this new feeling of peace. Type, "I release control," and feel the weight lift off.
If the ego is the static, then harmony is the music. The shift beyond ego isn't about destroying it. It's about putting it back in its rightful place. The ego was never meant to lead your manifestation. Its job is to protect, to navigate, and to get things done. But when it becomes the driver, your reality becomes an endless struggle. The quantum field doesn't need the ego's effort. It needs your alignment. And once you shift into that alignment, manifesting stops being a chase and starts being a natural unfolding. Think of the ego as a flashlight. It focuses narrowly on one spot, lighting up only what is directly in front of you. That's useful for survival, but manifesting requires a different kind of vision, more like the sun radiating in all directions, touching everything at once. That is your higher self, the part of you that can feel the field, sense the connections, and trust the unseen. The shift beyond ego is stepping from the flashlight into the sun, from control into illumination. Science backs this up in amazing ways. Brain scans of advanced meditators, like those studied in Dr. Joe Dispenza's workshops, show less activity in the part of the brain linked to ego chatter. At the same time, there is more synchronization across brain regions, creating a state called global harmony. This is the physical signature of a mind moving beyond ego. Instead of scattered signals, the brain broadcasts harmony. And when the brain and heart align, the universe responds instantly. People report spontaneous healings, coincidences, and desires that come true in ways that defy logic. Not because they worked harder, but because they stepped beyond the ego into harmony. Spiritual traditions have always taught this principle. The yogis spoke of dissolving the false self. Mystics spoke of dying to the little self to awaken the divine. Neville Goddard described it as living from the end, feeling the desired state so fully that there is no gap between you and what you want. All of them were pointing to the same truth. The ego keeps you in separation, but your higher self lives in unity. The moment you shift into unity, manifesting is no longer something you do, it is something you are. And here's where the paradox becomes your power. Shifting beyond the ego doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions become guided and inspired. Instead of frantic, fear-driven effort, your steps are efficient and calm. You don't waste energy trying to force outcomes. You move with the current of the field, like the surfer who stops fighting the wave and starts riding it. Your energy carries you effortlessly into alignment with your desires. The ego wanted control. The higher self wants flow, and flow is what the universe always rewards. The emotional difference is striking. When you're stuck in ego, manifesting feels heavy, tense, and uncertain. When you shift beyond the ego, manifesting feels light, expansive, and inevitable. You're no longer asking, when will it happen? You are living in the quiet knowing that it's already in motion. This is why mystics radiated such peace. They weren't trying to convince themselves of anything. They were already living in the state of being where manifesting was a given. Their vibration was their prayer. Their harmony was their command. So what does this look like in daily life? It's choosing to breathe instead of panic. It's noticing the urge to control and instead leaning into trust. It's catching yourself overcomplicating and asking, what would this look like if it were simple? That one question is enough to dissolve the ego's grip and invite the universe to respond. Because the truth is, simplicity is not laziness, it is alignment. And alignment is the shortest distance between you and your desired reality. This is the great shift, moving from effort to harmony, from ego to essence. And once you taste it, you can never go back. You realize the ego never had the power to manifest. It only had the power to block. The real creator was always your coherent self, the one that trusts, aligns, and allows. And the moment you live from that place, manifesting becomes as natural as breathing. Stay with me, because in the final part, I'll show you how to make this shift last and how to deepen it with a practice that will stabilize your harmony so you can manifest consistently without falling back into the ego's trap. Your comment is your command. Type, I release control to give the universe permission to work its magic.
If you've come this far, something inside you already knows the truth. The ego was never the problem to fight, but the noise to quiet. It was never the villain, only an outdated lens. The real power has always been in your harmony, in your simplicity, in the natural rhythm of who you already are. Quantum manifestation isn't complicated. It's not about working harder, thinking longer, or controlling more details. It is about becoming the vibration of the outcome you desire and letting the universe mirror that state back to you. Einstein reminded us that nature is simple, and its elegance lies in that simplicity. Joe Dispenza shows through science that the moment your brain and heart become harmonious, the body enters creation instead of survival. Neville Goddard taught that living from the end, feeling the state as already done, is the real secret of creation. All of these voices from science and spirituality point in the same direction. Your ego complicates, but the universe simplifies. Imagine living each day from that state. You wake up and instead of asking, "How will it happen?" you feel it's already happening. You walk into challenges not with fear, but with curiosity, knowing the universe is rearranging itself to match your signal. You no longer beg for signs because you've become the sign. People around you feel the shift even if they don't understand it. You radiate harmony, and harmony makes reality fall into place for you every single time. This is the invitation I leave you with. Stop trying to manifest from the ego. Release the need to overcomplicate. Trust the elegance of simplicity. Because simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is quantum intelligence. It is the most efficient, powerful way the universe works. And the moment you align with that, you stop being the struggler and become the creator. Now, if this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift in your body as we went deeper today, remember this: the universe doesn't reward the one who tries the hardest. It responds to the one who resonates the clearest. The ego will always whisper that you're not doing enough, that it has to be more complicated, that it can't be this easy. But your higher self knows better. It knows the truth. Quantum manifestation is simple. Alignment is power. And you are already the signal. So take a deep breath, anchor this frequency, and step forward as the creator you were always meant to be. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay in harmony, stay radiant, and remember, simplicity creates miracles. Let's make this real. In the comments, share one thing you will do differently today to practice simplicity.